In a world asking the question, what if the movies that got delayed came out on time and they were different? That's the case in my universe. I'm Steven Shinder, and you're listening to Delayed Replay, Season 5, airing every other Saturday, unless I change my mind. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Delayed Replay, that podcast where we recap and review movies that got delayed in that other universe but came out in time on our universe. I'm your host, Steven Shinder, and joining me to talk about Red One, a holiday movie that came out toward the end of last year for us, but is just about to come out soon in that other universe. It is Mondo. How's it going?
Hey man, it's going pretty good. Excited to talk about this very interesting film.
Yeah, for sure. Like, it's been almost a year since it came out, and you were just telling me you've seen it like 20 times or something crazy like that, right?
I have, and I own 47 copies of it
Oh,
on
damn.
Blu-ray. That's a lot of copies. It's
Yeah,
actually become one of my favorite movies of all time.
it's not even different formats like DVD and Blu-ray. It's just all Blu-ray.
It's just all Blu-ray, except I did find one VHS too. So I figured that was a good collector's item to have.
Oh, damn. I wonder how that came about.
I just imagine it was somebody that, how some people used to bootleg movies back in the day. They would sit in the back of the movie theater with their camcorder just facing the screen. I have this assumption that somebody who was still living in the 1980s did that, and that's what they were doing. But
Oh,
I found
yeah,
that,
we're in a multiverse, so maybe it's from that other universe where things are still kind of in like 1980s mode right now, like they're kind of behind, and so yeah, I think that's where that is from or something.
yeah, probably. But it was wild. I bought it at a thrift store for 14 cents. So I was like, heck yeah, I'm gonna buy this.
Damn. Yeah, people from other universes selling to thrift stores in other universes, I guess. Um, but yeah, so this movie was directed by Jake Kasdan, who, funny enough, it's actually his birthday today as we're recording this, and I did not plan that. It just kind of happened coincidentally.
Wow, that's a cool coincidence.
Yeah, it's a Christmas miracle, I guess, in late October. Um, but yeah, he's directed like the Jumanji sequels, and he also was a writer on Solo, a Star Wars story. So yeah, you definitely have some overlap with Jumanji actors. Like you got Bonnie Hunt and you got Dwayne Johnson in here. I guess some people know him as The Rock or something like that. Um,
Yeah, or you know him as the critically acclaimed Scorpion King. Um, that's imagine if you were like at that time if you weren't a wrestling fan or if you were just didn't even know anything about wrestling. Like if you'd been in a coma and you didn't know that The Rock was a professional wrestler, never saw T-shirts, never saw anything, and you just wake up out of coma and you want to go to the movie theater, and the first time you ever see The Rock is being a CGI Scorpion King.
yeah, and it somehow spawned like five more movies featuring that
It's,
character.
man, I remember, off topic, but I remember I grew up a big wrestling fan, still am to this day. This one of the reasons I went to go see this movie in the first place is because I always like to um, support the, the pro wrestlers when they go into acting, especially those pro wrestlers that I grew up watching, right? Your Rocks, your John Cena's, your Dave Batistas, Hulk Hogan when he did movies and things of that nature. So I always like to do that. Um, so I remember when it was this huge deal that The Rock was going to be in Scorpion King. That was like his first major motion picture, I believe. And you go and see it just because it's The Rock, and he's just this horrific looking. At the time, it looked pretty good, I guess. But this CGI video game looking character instead of The Rock himself. I don't know. It was just real funny.
No, yeah, my roommate watched The Mummy Returns recently, and she thought it was ridiculous that they made 5 movies just out of that one little scene with him as that character, and how he's like so different in the Scorpion King prequel. But I'm guessing that maybe the other Scorpion King movies that don't feature The Rock maybe show the transition or something. Like I'm not really sure. I've only seen the first and second Scorpion King movies, and after that, I just never felt too encouraged to continue. But I think it's inevitable that I'll probably watch all of them at some point in my life. Um, but yeah, before we delve into Red One, I want to ask, like, what are some of your favorite holiday movies, like around this, I guess, upcoming time of year or whatever?
Yeah, so that's actually a great question. So, I'll be honest with you. I generally lump in Halloween into the holidays. I feel like there's a lot of pomp and circumstance that go around with Halloween, whether it's traditions of decorating Halloween cookies or costumes or whatever it may be. Um, so I uh, I definitely so and Hocus Pocus I feel like is kind of what I use to start off the holidays with, I guess, if that's what you're doing. In terms of just Christmas, you've got Christmas Vacation, you've got A Christmas Story, you have the Jim Carrey's The Grinch. There are definitely a lot of great movies, but those three are definitely ones I can't uh, I can't leave out one of Tim Allen's best movies, The Santa Claus. One of the best movies I think to watch around the holidays.
Yeah, I think for me, one of my favorites, which I feel doesn't get mentioned as much, is Arthur Christmas, which is a 3D animated one from Aardman from like the early 2010s or something. And what's funny is that one shows like a bloodline of Santa Clauses, and one of them, I think his name was Steve, if I remember correctly, is like this stronger looking guy who's like in charge of the division or whatever that runs the whole operation. And we get a kind of similar character here that The Rock plays. He plays Callum Drift, who's in charge of North Pole security. And of course, the Santa Claus in this movie is played by J.K. Simmons. So what'd you think of him as a Santa Claus?
I thought it was an interesting take. I thought it was because J.K. Simmons is definitely a slimmer man. I mean, he's got a little bit of weight to him, but he's a much slimmer man than what you would envision Santa Claus looking like. So I thought that was a really cool take on it. Especially when you show certain scenes of him bodybuilding. I thought that was cool. Kind of a jacked Santa Claus, yeah, if you would. But it's also kind of interesting having an insurance agent as Santa Claus.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember like back in 2016 or 17 or something, people noticed that J.K. Simmons was working out and, building more muscle, and they were like, "Oh, he's building more muscle for his role as Commissioner Gordon in the Justice League movie." And then he came out and said, "No, I'm just doing this for me." It's kind of
Yeah,
funny how that happened.
yeah, and then now he's Santa Claus. So
And so the inciting incident is Santa Claus gets kidnapped, and on such a short like time frame before Christmas. And what they decide is that they need to get this hacker slash bounty hunter to help them. Jack O'Malley, who's played by Chris Evans. What'd you think of Chris Evans in this role?
I thought this was Chris Evans' best role since Captain America.
Oh wow.
I thought he was amazing. Honestly, I think he just needs his own spin-off series, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he does bring like that charisma to him. Like he has some, I guess you'd call it like bad boy energy type thing. Like he's cocky, which is off-putting in some ways, but he does have kind of an arc in this movie, I guess you could say.
Well, yeah, because I mean, remember when they first introduced him to the uh, the North Pole elves, and uh, that they bring him in, they're reluctant on him because he's got a reputation at being a bad guy because he's on the naughty list and like in like the worst way apparently.
Yeah, like level 4, I think is how they describe it.
Yeah, so he's a level 4 naughty lister, and they make jokes like, "Oh, like you think this guy's redeemable?" Um, and so he's got a history, and they kind of dive into that a little bit, and he does have a little bit of a redemption. I mean, you save Santa Claus. I mean, you save Santa Claus. I mean that can almost redeem anybody.
Yeah, it's like if you save Santa Claus, you could get away with murder, you know?
I was gonna say you could be like Kylo Ren in that other franchise that we don't no one really talks about anymore. Straight up kills your dad, and then for some reason you become a good guy at the end of it. Like maybe that's all he needed to do was save Santa Claus.
Yeah, it falls in that tradition of Darth Vader's redemption, you know? Just teaching people some really good, wholesome moral lessons.
Exactly.
Yeah, so Lucy Liu as Zoe Harlow does like the briefing and stuff, and we also get this polar bear character called Agent Garcia, and it's they kind of do this thing where every now and then Agent Garcia, like he pretty much gets his favorite drink, which in this movie is a bottle of Pepsi. Um, this was, I guess, the opposite of what people would expect from polar bears, right?
Yeah, and I always thought that was kind of funny. Like he barked, and with the first scene where it happens, they're at this bar, right? And he's like, "I'll have my favorite beverage and my favorite drink." And goes to the bar. He's like, "Do you have cola?" And the bartender's like, "Yeah, we do." And he's like, "All right, is it Pepsi?" And you're thinking, "Oh, he's gonna say if it's Pepsi, he doesn't want it." But he says, "No, it is Pepsi." He's like, "That's my favorite. That's what I drink all the time." And I remember the movie theater, they kind of gasped a little bit because when you think polar bear, what do you think, right? You think Coca-Cola.
Yeah. And there's even someone in the bar who's like, "Hey, polar bear, shouldn't you be drinking Coca-Cola?" And it gets him so furious that this bar fight ensues, and it kind of pads the runtime a little bit, but I think some people in my theater were kind of laughing along to it.
Oh yeah, it was a funny scene, especially because it went to the tune of kung fu fighting, which is kind of weird because nobody in the scene was kung fu fighting. But it was just an overall funny scene.
Yeah, and it just ends with him like downing the whole bottle of Pepsi. So, yeah, I guess it was entertaining enough. But then they're investigating, trying to narrow down their suspects, and they have like a list of people that they want to question and go after. Like uh, there's Grilla, who she is played by Kiernan Shipka, who played Sabrina in The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Did you ever watch that show?
I never got around to that one, but so many people said it was a very good show. And I remember when it got canceled, there were a lot of people that were upset that they went that route with it.
Yeah, I remember watching the first episode a few years ago and thinking, you know what, I feel like this isn't really for me. And then, I was watching Riverdale, but I got to a point where I was kind of hate watching it after the fact and just it got super ridiculous, but it had a little crossover with this iteration of Sabrina. So like you got to see that version again. And I actually recently read the a bit of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina comics, and those are actually pretty good. And the art is amazing, and I guess very spooky, you could say, and it just looks incredible. So I don't know, I might try out that world again and see if the show gets at least near how those comics are. But yeah, here she is playing uh Grilla or Gryla. They pronounce it a couple different ways here, and she's based on this I think it's an Icelandic folklore figure who is like described as being ogre like. So they kind of took some liberties with that here. But what'd you think of the way that her character was utilized?
I thought it was utilized very well. I thought it seemed to add. We talked about the bar scene and the polar bear. We talked about, kind of the opposite of what you would expect Santa Claus to look like. I feel like her character added a little bit of sort of smarts to the movie. Like it was sort of like kind of that a piece that added just I don't know, I don't know how to explain it other than that. Just got a like a bit of intelligence to it. Just a very grounded character, very well rounded. Had a couple of little funny, witty lines, but it was more of like that smart humor, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like she definitely seems smart, and the way that she views Santa Claus, views Santa Claus as a rival, and thinking that, you shouldn't be just boxing people and just naughty and nice. It's more nuanced than that. And so she kind of gives second chances to some of the people that Santa would consider naughty, and gives some of them presents as well. So this was an interesting take on that type of character.
Yeah, because whenever you think Santa, you think of the naughty and nice list. Whenever you think of Krampus, you think of everyone's naughty. Um, whenever you think of man, I, I don't know the character from The Office that Dwight Schrute dressed up as one year. Um,
Oh, Belschnickel.
Belschnickel, everyone's either impish or worthy. Um, it was an interesting take.
Yeah, and I guess another bit of the folklore is that Gryla has a lazy husband, and I thought it was kind of funny how here they show the husband and he just sits at home watching TV from the couch. Like, I think some people find that kind of relatable.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I think yeah. I mean, and that was kind of funny too.
Yeah. What'd you think of the actor they got to play the husband?
It, he kind of reminded me of what's his name, Carl from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Um, what's it, Carl? I don't know the guy in the white T-shirt with the chain on. Oh,
Oh, that
I'm
guy.
not sure. Yeah, kind of reminded me of that guy a little bit.
Yeah, they got someone who kind of looks like the spitting image of him. Yeah.
They
And
almost kind of look like he belonged in an episode of the Trailer Park Boys or something.
yeah, and they also have like a pet cat known as the Yule cat. And apparently the Yule cat eats people who don't have new clothes in time for Christmas, which I didn't know about until this movie. But yeah, that was an odd choice.
Well, I would have been eating a long time ago because I'm still rocking the same Christmas pants from 3 years ago, and I wear them for everything, not just Christmas. So they're kind of hanging on by a few threads.
Yeah, literally. But we mentioned Krampus, and that's another suspect on the list. I think the overall look of Krampus is pretty decent. As far as creatures go, I feel like, it could have looked worse. And it looks pretty much how one would hope slash expect the creature to look, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think, Krampus is more of a horror type ideal in terms of things. And I don't think they wanted to make it too horrific because this wasn't a horror movie. Um, and I think they did a pretty good job of making him look ominous and, you know, dangerous without kind of leading too much into that, is this a horror movie kind of take? But no, it was pretty interesting. Some of the look of them, especially the horns, I thought that was interesting. Um, the you know this the way that the part that got me was his toenails, how disgusting they looked, but just I know I every time I watch the movie, which has been 20 something times already this year, I just want to get out some toenail clippers and just clip his toenails.
No, yeah, I'm just clipping my fingernails just thinking about it,
I don't know if you'll remember this. I might be aging myself here. I grew up watching a show called Even Stevens. Did you ever watch Even Stevens?
Oh yeah, when I was a kid, yeah, I watched some of it.
Remember the episode where they give the lunch lady a makeover and they get to her feet and they've got bunions and um they're they actually have to bring out power tools to shave her toenails down and to get the corns off the bottom of her feet. If you remember that episode, and this is to the listeners, if you remember that, think of that times 10, and that's what Krampus's toes look like in this movie.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I've seen that episode, but I've definitely seen that type of gag in something else where the characters trim someone's toenails using power tools or something.
Yeah, like a circular saw or like a
Yeah.
sander.
Yeah. I will say that the look of these snowmen that are like these minions of whoever's kidnapped Santa in this movie, I thought that those looked really creative. They were like these tall snowmen that look kind of muscular, and when you remove the top half, like the torso, they're able to put themselves back together type thing.
Yeah, because they're a snowman, right? So I feel like they kind of borrowed that from other snowmen, which makes sense, right? These snowmen aren't your average snowman. They're not Olaf, so they're not going to start singing. Although I don't know if you caught it, but in one of the fight scenes, um, there's a piano playing in the background, and they're playing in summer. If you really pay attention, um, which is the musical number that Olaf sings in Frozen. Um, but to me, they're like the abominable snowmen, which I thought was kind of a cool touch to that. And they just look wicked with the sharp teeth, and the growls and just all of those things.
Yeah, definitely. Like if I were confronted with these things in real life, well, like you watch them in a movie like this, and it's like, oh yeah, this is a lot of fun. But I feel like if I saw those in real life, I would be scared uh, out of my wits end and just like, they'd probably like bite my head off or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah, and what do you do? Like, I mean, aside from melting them, I mean, you can't cut them in half because they'll just lock themselves back together.
Yeah, like these ones are pretty OP. Like even when they try melting them, they're still able to manipulate the water that makes them up and turn into like these water monster type things. Um,
Yeah, yeah. And then the one that they melted in the freezer and it turned into like this almost like ice thing. Like I thought that's cool too.
oh yeah, and it had like a bit of like leftovers like stuck to it. Like that sometimes when meat juice like spills in the freezer and then becomes part of the ice or whatever, like it ended
Yeah.
up looking like that, and you could sort of imagine what the smell is like.
Oof, man. Yeah, that's a good. I don't know. In all the times I've watched it, I don't know if I've actually questioned what they smell like. But no, that's interesting. That is an interesting idea. Man, I wonder what Krampus smells
I don't ever want to find out personally. But yeah, each time they interrogate the suspects, Jack and Callum do this, I guess, sort of cliche thing by this point where they argue over who gets to be the bad cop because, they're both tough guys. And so they do the thing of like trying to prove, who's the more macho between the two. What'd you think of this whole back and forth?
I thought it was pretty interesting, because you've got Chris Evans, right? I mean, who's not a small man, but he's definitely not The Rock, when it comes to body mass. The Rock is a mountain of a man. So to have somebody trying to um, sort of out bad that guy, you know what? Does that make sense? Um,
Yeah.
but some of the shenanigans that they would do, and like when he took the table and like threw it against the wall, and he was like, "I can do this, this is what I could do." And then The Rock just grabbed like four chairs and just threw them at the wall at one time. He's like, "I'm bigger than you," just kind of going back and forth. Man, I thought that was wild. I think it's so funny though to see that, especially like I said, when it's just like I don't know if I would ever have the fortitude to stand up to somebody the size of The Rock and be like, I can out muscle you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, Chris Evans, like you said, is not a small guy, but The Rock does look noticeably bigger in comparison. So it takes a lot of guts, I guess. Like, if, Chris Evans, his character obviously is going in with both his kidneys, trying to one up The Rock's character here. So it's an interesting dynamic, even if it does have some cliches here and there.
Oh yeah, but I think though that also kind of speaks to the kind of character Chris Evans plays in this because you know he is this kind of in his mind he's this big macho tough guy, right? And that's what's landed him on the L4 naughty list.
Yeah, definitely. Another one of the suspects they interrogate is like, I guess this jack-o'-lantern is like the spirit of Halloween or something.
Oh yeah, Jackie.
Yeah. Yeah, so they get into a bit of confusion over like which Jack is being talked to in this scene.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. That was oh man. Um, there it kind of in this weird way, it kind of reminded me of like the Spider-Man, like they're all pointing at each other, like I'm
Oh
talking to
yeah.
you, no, you. Um, and then there's just a lot of miscommunication that's happening. And then, the Chris Evans Jack, he starts to reveal certain things about his past because he's asked about it. He gets confused. Um, but they're not talking to him, they're talking to Jackie. It's just a funny dynamic. They played that scene tremendously.
Yeah. I like the bit where Callum says to the jack-o'-lantern, he says to him, I heard that pumpkins are considered squash. You want to test out that theory? So, a nice little pun there.
Yeah.
But like you said, we do start to learn more about Jack, Chris Evans' character, his past, and how he became a hacker. Like, we kind of get this flashback to when he was a kid and he used to play this online computer game thing. It's like a kid's online arcade thing called Fun Brain, and it looks like this board game where like you move to one game and then the next game type thing, but the website never updated to finish adding the remaining games on the virtual board thing, and so that is what caused his spiral into like wanting to be a hacker. Like he would hack all these other things. It started off as a quest to find the assets, the whatever the developers of these games might have, um, like in the pipeline, and then when he found out that they just stopped trying to develop more of those games, he just got even more upset and decided, you know what, I'm gonna be naughty from now on.
And it's wild that that's just the smallest thing that can happen.
Yeah,
And that's a real thing.
it just snowballed,
Yeah, no pun intended, just the snowman. Or pun intended is what I meant to
Yeah,
say.
pun definitely intended.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you, man, that website looked cool. Like I'd like to play on that website.
Yeah. I used to play that back in the day as a kid, so I found myself weirdly sympathizing with Jack here.
It reminds me back when like the internet was early on, and like every like 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 a child's channel had um like games. Like Disney Channel had like Zoog Disney, and they boasted there's like 75 games you could play or something like that. And then Cartoon Network had all these games you could play, and Nickelodeon had all these games you could play. And you would just go, and they were just all these really weird free flash games that you could just go play on these websites. Um, I yeah, I kind of miss those times.
No, yeah, so do I. I remember loving the Disney Channel website game that where you're Experiment 625 from Lilo and Stitch the series and trying to build a sandwich as the pieces fall out of the fridge. Or on the Cartoon Network website, there was a Christmas themed Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy game where you'd have to fight off these zombies or zombie toys or whatever. Like I miss those. Like, yeah. It's probably some online YouTube video essays about them.
Yeah, that takes me back to almost the time of like AOL discs that used to show up in the mail.
Geez, every time I hear about how those used to like come in the mail, it just feels like so weird to me to think back to that.
Yeah, well, I went to somebody's house one time. This is off topic. This is not about the news, but I remember I went to someone's house one time, and they're they lived with their grandma, and their grandma was so cheap that she found a way. What she did is she would take those discs and do something like cover them in like in some sort of like epoxy or something. I forgot the name of it. And then she would use them as coasters.
Oh wow.
Like that's what she would use. Like so like they had these big old coasters just hanging out on the table, like they were just massive.
Damn.
I was thrifty. Like you got to think about it like it's thrifty. Like she just put something on the bottom of it so they wouldn't slide all over the place, and then just set your drinks and stuff on top of them and save the table.
Yeah. But speaking of drinks on coasters, one of the other people they interrogate is Dr. Pepper, because National Dr. Pepper Day is a holiday. What'd you think of this movie's depiction of Dr. Pepper, the holiday figure?
I thought it was interesting because, first of all, the eye patch threw me off. But like, how
Yeah.
would you a doctor with an eye patch? Um, but he also wore like a not quite like a 10 like what are those like a top hat, but like like a short like a half of a top hat. Like not quite as tall, but um, and he just seemed like a very proper gentleman to me. You know, almost like the Planters Peanuts guy, but in human form.
Yeah, and I like that they got Giancarlo Esposito to play him because he knows how to play those gentleman type characters who seem really intelligent and in charge.
Yes, yes, and the accent was just perfect, which was kind of funny though. They gave him that kind of accent, but when you think of Dr. Pepper, at least here, me, you think of Texas and the South. I thought that was kind of a funny backwards thing, and that's something this movie did a lot of. We mentioned the Pepsi with the polar bear instead of Coca-Cola. Just a lot of little things like that that make you think that they didn't just go with the easy way; they got creative. And I think that that says a lot about why I have an entire bookshelf full of Blu-ray copies and one VHS of his movie.
Yeah. Right. And Dr. Pepper, his alibi checks out, but he offers them a clue because like he's heard like some rumblings of um what the I guess like the mascot they included here as well is the Thanksgiving turkey, which I think that was a little bit of a can of worms for like online discourse, but I thought the character was, I guess, kind of funny at least, the turkey.
Oh yeah, the turkey. Turkey was funny. The turkey reminded me. I don't know if you're a big sports fan, but there used to be this trophy that the NFL or like the NFL on Fox team or something used to hand out called like the Dookie Gobbler or something, and it was this stupid looking turkey that they gave to their player of the game for the Thanksgiving Day game. And it looked ridiculous. And that's what this turkey kind of looked like. But it was funny. It was really funny. It kind of reminded me of the rooster from Moana, but in turkey form.
Yeah, and when they found him, he was in a bowling alley because, three strikes in a row is considered a turkey. So they went ahead and
It is.
tied that into it.
It was. Yes, it was. And it was funny. He was.
Yeah, and his voice, it kind of reminded me of Chicken Joe from the Surf's Up movies, which I guess are kind of obscure now, but those were a thing.
Yeah, yeah. They. If I remember correctly, I think there was like a WWE to tie this in with a Rock. I think there was like a WWE spinoff, like a Surfs Up WrestleMania or something like that, like a Surfs Up goes to WrestleMania or something like that.
Oh yeah, that
Uh,
sounds vaguely familiar. Yeah, I do remember like in that universe, it seemed comparable to the wrestling aesthetic,
yeah, I think they did do something like that, but
like
don't
Wave
quote me.
Mania or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I think that was the second movie actually, but yeah. And they end up chasing this turkey guy, but when they catch him, it's not because he reveals he wasn't running because he's guilty of having kidnapped Santa. He was running just because he's so used to people chasing him because he's the turkey and people get hungry, I guess.
Yeah, well, and this is around the holidays, right? So I mean, people
Yeah,
for Christmas too. So that makes sense that he would be running because he feels like he's in danger.
right. What'd you think of the reveal of who it is that actually kidnapped Santo whenever they find out like who it is?
Oh, it was an interesting twist because when the movie starts, you just assume it's someone like Krampus or maybe like the Easter Bunny or something like that, you know?
Oh yeah, the Easter Bunny in this version was kind of like scary, like had really sharp teeth and stuff.
Yeah, the Easter Bunny almost kind of looks like the snowman.
Yeah. So I guess that was a little bit of a red herring there too.
Yeah, yeah. Because like you would have thought of that, but it wasn't. It was just it was funny. It was actually Tim Allen who did it because in this particular movie, Tim Allen can't fathom the fact that he's not Santa Claus. He's I I I've talked about this before that he thought like he's played Santa forever, right? There was even just Santa Claus's television series that I think is still going. I can't remember if it got canceled or not. Um, and he got so sick of it, he wanted to really be Santa. So he kidnapped Santa Claus. So that was the reveal. It was Tim Allen the whole time. Tim the Tool Man Allen.
Yeah, like Tim Allen playing a version of himself who's super obsessed with the role or I guess is sick of the role and wants to be rid of Santa Claus altogether so that he doesn't have to keep playing it or something.
Yeah, yeah, man. That's just, I died. I'd still die every time I see because you're not going to expect that.
Yeah, so when Callum and Jack find this out, they They try fighting off these snowman henchmen, which I don't know how Tim Allen got these. I think they sort of hand wave it by saying he's super rich, so he can do anything. I kind of wonder if they were trying to say some sort of message about, being super like how wealthy people like just get away with a lot of stuff. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, when it comes to some of those subliminal messages, sometimes they just go right over everybody's head. Because sometimes they're so obscure, they only they're only ever known by the person that writes them, you know?
Right. Yeah, and he captures Callum and Jack for a bit, but then Jack and Callum work together to get out of their cell. They do the pep talk thing of like, you know what, we started off hating each other, but we work really well together, and that whole bonding thing. Did you think
Yeah.
that this development was organic, or do you think it felt kind of disjointed and maybe like rushed even?
I thought it was okay. I would say it felt rushed, but the fact that Jack doesn't actually get off of the naughty list, he gets moved up to like an L1 on the naughty list, I think. Or he's still
Right.
on the naughty list. So like I don't think so because it's not all like love and roses. Like Jack's still not a good guy. I think he just kind of earns the respect of Callum.
Yeah, and it was very wild the way that Callum helped him move up on the rankings, because Callum, in order to defeat Tim Allen, he had to do all these awful things. He had to beat up a bunch of people, and some of it is like off screen. So it's like, holy crap, like how much of a beating is he giving? And so he makes it so that he makes himself a level four, so that in comparison, it's like, oh, I guess Jack isn't as bad compared to all this, and sort of readjusts the scale of naughtiness, I guess.
So I don't know if you've actually seen this or not, but um, I have the super rare limited collector's edition of the movie as one of my 47 copies of Blu-ray um,
Okay.
that I own, and it has a very special behind the scenes. And there were some of the people that Callum, or in this case, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, was beating up off screen, and the cameras weren't even rolling. He was just beating the crap out of people.
Oh,
Um,
shoot.
he didn't hear that. He didn't hear the director say cut, and he just kept playing the smackdown on some of these people. That was
Dang.
part of the thing. It's pretty funny actually. So, Dwayne The Rock Johnson may actually be on the level 4 in real life.
Yeah, he might actually be on the deep end, unfortunately. Yeah, it's crazy that they actually put that on the Blu-ray. Like you would think they would want to cover up that scandal, but they like leaned into it.
Well, that's why I saw we have a super special limited edition collector's steel case Blu-ray 17 disc edition. And it's actually on the 16th disc. I don't think they thought that anybody would get that far.
Yeah, is it true that that version, like that collector's edition, has like some Blu-ray games? Like you remember when DVDs of like kids movies used to have like uh DVD games? Does this one have like Blu-ray games on it?
It actually does. There's a game where you're the polar bear and you are taking Pepsi bottles and you're clubbing seals with them.
Oh,
Um,
jeez.
so that's one of the things. I mean, all the seals are red and white to look like Coca-Cola bottles, which is really funny. Um, and then there's another game. It's called Norwal Surfer. I mean, this is a scene we didn't talk about, but you basically surf on this Norwal, and you're having to go from the North Pole down to Alaska, and you're having to dodge all of um, these obstacles in the water. Like sharks, and if you're a Norwalk, you would think you would just stab them. But like sharks and debris and oil tankers and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
It's a pretty fun game.
yeah, maybe the seal aspect, even though they were Coca-Cola seals, maybe that's why this is a rare collector's edition. Like it
Maybe, maybe you can't just have games where you're just clubbing seats,
right. Where were we in the movie? Oh yeah, so they work together and um Callum, he beats up Tim Allen and he even says something to the effect of "You were miscast in the Shaggy Dog remake," and then punches him in the face, and it's just random throwaway like that.
And that's something funny that this movie kind of did. Like it kind of broke down the fourth wall of certain things. Um, and it just kind of it was not quite as fourth wall breaking as Deadpool, but it had a couple moments where it kind of did that, which was funny.
Yeah, and so they free Santa, and they're trying to figure out what Tim Allen's punishment is, and then Santa is like, "Well, he knows some stuff about home improvement, right?" And so his punishment is that he has to help them renovate and do construction work at the base at the North Pole. And so, yeah, he has a lot of hours to put in as, I guess, his community service.
Yeah, and then Santa actually makes him like an honorary elf. Um, so like he, so in this weird way, he gets demoted from being Santa. They wanted to get rid of it, but now he's an elf altogether, which is just really funny to me. Um, that when you think about that.
Yeah, I also thought it was kind of funny how like you have the two Buzz Lightyears here. Well, I guess two of the three Buzz Lightyears. Oh wait, no, like all three, because like Patrick Warburton has a cameo as one of the elves. Like one of the elves just has his voice.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. I forgot about that, and that was a funny elf too. Patrick Warburton has such a voice, man. Like it's distinguishable.
Oh yeah, recently I was rewatching Paranorman with a friend, and one of the characters like thought sounded kind of like Patrick Warburton, but was actually someone else. And as the movie kept going, we were like, okay, yeah, this person doesn't sound like Patrick Warburton. It was just in that beginning part, but yeah. um, but yeah, like the three Buzz Lightyears are here, and they at one point even do the Spider-Man pointing thing.
Yeah, like you sound familiar. You sound familiar. Huh? You sound familiar.
Yeah, and they save Christmas, so we get this montage of J.K. Simmons delivering presents, going down chimneys and eating cookies. Um, and yeah, what'd you think of the music that was playing during this montage?
I thought it was pretty good. I feel like it didn't really fit because they recycled a song from another movie. Um, you know, and it was the song from the Bumblebee movie. I can't think of the
Oh,
name of it off the top of my head.
oh, is it the one that's like at the end of the movie?
Yes, yeah, the Haley Steinfeld song.
Bring me back to
Yes,
life.
yes, exactly.
Whoa,
Yes,
whoa.
yes, that was the song that they played. Which was really weird because Santa was never dead. But I guess because like the spirit of Christmas was almost dead, that they played it. But it was so it wasn't even a Christmas movie. There wasn't a Christmas movie played in this entire movie, or a Christmas song played in this entire movie.
Right. Yeah, we did see how kind of depressed people were getting. Like they had these Christmas mugs full of hot chocolate, but they were like just letting it spill on the floor. And it's like, wow, that's really bleak. Like just letting your hot chocolate and marshmallows spill on the floor because you think Christmas is dead. Like that kind of got to me, man.
Oh yeah, and like in the streets, like like all like the shops, like nobody was spending any money. Everybody was just sad and depressed. Like you go like
and like the snow in London was turning into rain, so it was just any ordinary day in England.
Yes, yes, yeah, exactly. And even like the royalty there was just really sad, like they were just didn't just couldn't even know how to address the people.
Yeah, right. And because of that, people started rebelling and were like, we're not happy, and just like trying to loot stores and stuff. Like that was a random sharp turn in the middle of the movie, but I guess that's what happens when the Christmas spirit feels like it's dying.
Yeah, definitely. Um, what did you think about the scene where, Jack and I was gonna say The Rock. I just like the they they were they were at
No.
this they shared a poutine.
Oh yeah, it was like an olive branch moment.
Yes.
Because I think Canada is known for being friendly. It's kind of a stereotype. Maybe it's true. I don't know. But yeah, they end up in Canada and just like share this plate of poutine, and they eat it and they're like, "Wow, this is really good." And they're like besties basically.
Yeah. It was a cute moment. It was a good moment.
Yeah, it definitely made me hungry.
It definitely made me hungry, too. I'm always hungry though, so there's nothing.
Yeah. All right. Well, was there anything else you want to mention before we go into final thoughts and score out of 10?
No, I think we've pretty much beat a dead snowman with it so far.
Okay. So, what are your final thoughts and score out of 10 for Red One? And what's your unit of measurement for that score? So, it could be like an object related to the movie or something instead of
Oh, okay.
stars.
Okay. Um, so I thought the movie is really good. It's a great holiday movie. It's a fun holiday movie. It's sort of like in this weird way, it's like an anti-holiday movie because it's about Santa Claus, but it doesn't overdo the holiday themes. I mentioned there's no Christmas music anywhere in the movie. Um, so if you have people in your life that like they're not really big on the overdoing Christmas movies, this would be a good movie for them to maybe get into and to watch. I give it a 9.5 out of 10 CPAP machines. Um, that's what I give it. Don't ask why I chose CPAP machine. Um,
No, yeah, they did show like one of the depressed people when like Christmas seems to be dying. They have a CPAP machine.
Actually, I know why I chose a CPAP machine is because a CPAP machine basically keeps you breathing and keeps you alive at night. And this movie has kept me alive since it's come out.
Oh,
This
okay,
movie gives
gotcha.
me extra life.
Dang. Yeah, I totally get what you mean about the Christmas music. Like, I actually quite like Christmas music, but I know for other people, it can feel depressing. It depends on what life is like for each person, I guess. So, yeah, I think you're right that this could be, something to ease them into that type of thing. It's not too overtly Christmas compared to other things. I thought it was, I guess, entertaining enough. Like it's something to put on to pass the time. Like I think especially if you have people over and you just need to put something on even while doing other stuff together, like eating or playing some sort of board game. Like I think it's fine. So I'm not as high on it as you are, but I mean you got like 47 copies, whereas I don't. So I think that was really clear from the start. But I think I'm gonna give this 7 out of 10 cans of Dr. Pepper.
Nice. CPAP machines and Dr. Pepper. That sounds like a good night to me.
Right. But thanks for joining me for this discussion, Mondo. I don't know if you have anything to plug, but you can if you want, or you can recommend people watch something that you're into? I don't know.
I don't have anything to plug right now. You know, Mondo hasn't really been active in the podcasting world. This is actually my first podcast in quite a while. Um, so it's nice to kind of get back to it. I will recommend everybody watching Jurassic World, Chaos Theory, if you haven't. Um, and if you haven't watched Camp Cretaceous before that, watch that too. And then if you haven't, watch Cobra Kai. It's an awesome show. One of the best, one of the better kind of rebooted um, television series
Yeah,
that
like
they kind of made off of.
like a sequel type things.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
definitely agree. Like it does a great balance between the older generation and the newer generation, which I think is something that other IPs have struggled with. So yeah, Jurassic World, Chaos Theory. Yeah, that's another good one. People can check out the Intergalactic Peace Coalition episode where some of us talked about that, and you sent in a recording that I think is gonna be part of it. And yeah, if Christmas, the holidays aren't your thing, people, you can watch these shows about dinosaurs.
yeah. Or people beating each other up.
Yeah. Cobra Kai.
Yeah,
There was an episode, like didn't one of the season finales of Cobra Kai like take place around Christmas, and they had some sort of new version of like Carol of the Bells or something, and it was super intense and during a fight sequence.
I think they did actually. Yes, yeah. But I'm actually sad that that show's ended. I know we weren't talking about that, but I'm actually really sad because, like I said, that was one of, and I was late on the Cobra Kai bandwagon. Um, I think got into it around season three, and I like the season had just come out, and I was like, oh, what's this Cobra Kai stuff? And it's gonna sound really bad, but I started watching it like 10:30 at night, and I ended up watching it nonstop all night. And I called out of work the next day to finish.
No, yeah, some shows are that good. Like me and my brother, we watched the Karate Kid movies together around like I think it was like '09 or '10. He had already seen them before, but we watched them together and bonded over them. And so when Cobra Kai premiered, like that was back when it was a YouTube premium series, before it moved to Netflix. And like it was we were super impressed with it. It wasn't just a cash grab. They put a lot of thought into it. Some things get kind of repetitive, but it's still entertaining. And I do think season 5 is when I start thinking, I feel like they should maybe wrap things up. And so when they said season 6 will be the final one, it's like, okay, this makes sense. They're not going to drag it out. And of course, there's also the movie afterward, which is a different thing. But yeah, like uh, overall, I'm pleased with the franchise, the way it's been handled for the most part.
Yeah, 100%. And I agree. Um, as sad as I am to see it go, I'm glad it's not one of those shows that overstayed its welcome.
Right, for sure. So thanks again, and thanks for tuning in, everyone. And without further delay, have a good day. All right, so come back in 2 weeks for another delayed replay episode. You can email delayed replay via delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on uh, Coke versus Pepsi. I don't know. And you can also follow me at Steven Shinder on Instagram, Twitter/X, Threads. I think I'm finally figuring out how Threads works. Steven Shinder Storytelling on Facebook. Go to stevenshinder.com for info on my standalones and stepping stones novels, which are available on Amazon. And you can also check out Yesshift, a podcast/vlog that I do with my dad. We interviewed original Yes singer John Anderson recently, and I also posted my review of a David Gilmour concert, and there's also some other cool stuff. So check that out, and check Drum Talk TV, especially Drum Talk TV Brilliance, our membership site where you can get access to artist Q&As, live stream concerts, game shows, and drumming showcases, stuff like that if that's your jam. And I'm also on Goodreads, Letterboxd, and as mentioned earlier in the episode, the Jurassic World Chaos Theory episode of IPC, Intergalactic Peace Coalition, that episode came out to be like 3.5 hours or so, and it was a really fun discussion talking about that series, the first 2 seasons of Chaos Theory, just a solid continuation of Camp Cretaceous, even if there are a couple seasons of Camp Cretaceous I prefer. And the Question Possible Answer episode that just got released on the Cinemabies feed, my friend Jesse's podcast, where we talked about Saw for like 2.5 hours or something like that. Yeah, these things go on pretty long, but yeah, that's quite a throwback, something for the 20th anniversary of Saw. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. So without further delay, here's my other self with a little update on what he's been watching and whatnot. Hey everybody, how's it going? It's the other Steven. Wow, a holiday episode in early November. I guess the holidays start earlier each year. I did see that there was some holiday movie called Holiday Crashers or something that came out in mid-October, but there you go. But yeah, like I've mentioned before, I spent October reviewing the Chucky franchise, the 7 movies and the TV show that followed, and then November 1st was the release of Doc of Chucky, a almost 5-hour documentary about the Chucky films, and so I capped off Chucktober with 31 reviews of the on-screen stories plus that doc, and there'll also be one on Living with Chucky, reviewing that upon a rewatch. So yeah, it was a really fun experiment watching one Chucky thing per day for all that time on my YouTube channel, Steven Shinder Reviews in video form. And I'll be back on that channel reviewing some other things. It might take a week or more, I guess we'll see. It'll be kind of nice having a little break from having to worry about uploading there. But yeah, also been watching some other things. I don't remember if I mentioned I got halfway through the final season of Fear the Walking Dead, and then I kind of got distracted by other things. I'm sure I'll get back to it at some point, but it was fine, most of it anyway. So I guess I'll have to see how they concluded it when I have the time. There were a couple recent movies that hit Max recently. Maxine, the end of this Ty West trilogy, I thought it worked as a solid denouement of the trilogy it's part of, and maybe I just liked it more because it was set in the 80s, but it worked. Sometimes 80s things can feel too nostalgia baity, but I was invested in this one, but your mileage may vary. There is also that a couple films by a couple different Shyamalans. Of course, there was Trap. I found that one suspenseful, even though it was stupid, and then I took off half a star for my Letterboxd review because of the last few minutes of it. But yeah, it could have been better, but I don't regret watching it. I thought it kept my attention for a good amount of the runtime. So yeah, I think it's okay at best. And then The Watchers, I didn't like as much. I felt on it. It didn't really grab my attention all that much. Um, and Don't Move, a Netflix thriller, I was really mad on as well. It gets refreshing when there are moments where, the main character can not move for a lot of the time, and then uh, it gets really close when people almost help her and they just don't do some of the things that you would expect them to do in a real situation. And I also watched Hellboy, The Crooked Man. I thought that was bad. Yeah, it's the worst Hellboy film, in my opinion. I've made it my way through a huge chunk of the Hellboy comics. I made it to the Hellboy in Hell, those two trade paperbacks. Well, I have them as ebooks, but you know what I mean. So I'd read the Crooked Man story before watching this movie, and the movie just is not as captivating, and it doesn't look very good. So I really think that whenever Hellboy gets rebooted again for the screen, it should be animated. I also watched The Last Video Store, thinking that it was a horror comedy of the same name that came out the same year, but it was a different movie of the same title, which was a romantic comedy, and I thought it was super boring. So I thought, maybe I'm biased because of those expectations, but I thought that was really, really bad. Agatha All Along had a really solid ending. I'm really happy with how that show turned out, and it was really refreshing to not have the usual suspects online complain about the show being woke or whatever, as we've seen before. So maybe they were really into the writing, some of those people anyway, and then just shut up and realized they that you know being quote unquote woke is not inherently the problem. Like, people think that automatically makes something bad, and yeah, no. But yeah, Agatha All Along was the most fun I've had with the MCU since Guardians of the Galaxy 3, even though it does not surpass that. So I think I'd give Agatha All Along 8.25 out of 10 overall. On the DC end, I'm still enjoying The Penguin. It's a really great couple of flashback episodes recently. I can't remember if I touched on those. But as far as animated DC stuff, I got around to finishing the Crisis on Infinite Earths trilogy, and it was okay at best. I'm really tired of cameos that happen in these movies just to see them get destroyed or whatever. That was a thing with the Flash movie. And yeah, I don't think Crisis on Infinite Earths can get a really great adaptation at this point. The Batman Unlimited animated stuff. So there's a web series. This is from like the mid 2010s, but I went ahead and checked that out. I thought the shorts kind of flew through my head and then out, and they're just kind of forgettable. They're just action with little to no dialogue, and the movies are like okay. They're not that much better. Definitely some better DC films out there. I watched the Batman versus Dracula for the first time in years, and I thought that was okay as well. Like, I'd rather just watch an episode of The Batman, the 2004 TV series. So I think I'm going to get back into that sometime soon, that show. On Halloween, I watched All Hallows Eve, both of those films. They're anthology films. The first one introduces Art the Clown, and I was kind of surprised by all the low scores that it got. I kind of liked the vibes, the music of it, and thought it was supposed to be reminiscent of those cheap-looking B-movie horror movies, and so I thought it worked somewhat and was fine overall. Definitely some disturbing stuff in there. All Hallows Eve 2 I thought was boring, though, even though there was an interesting thing involving a pumpkin growing out of someone's guts, which I've used in a story before. Um, and yeah, like you can check my Letterboxd for anything else I may be watching, I guess. I'm trying to remember if there's any other TV I've been watching. Oh, I watched a Netflix show, Nobody Wants This, and it's really good. It's kind of a comfort show, but also has smart dialogue. It's about a couple that starts dating, and there touches on the boundaries of religion and stuff like that, and you know, the two different worlds and stuff. Like it's good. I think it's pretty good. Really glad that it's getting a second season. So yeah, I guess that's it from me for now. Um, yeah, not sure what I'll be covering next time. Well, I'm sure there'll be stuff for me to talk about. Oh, and Star Trek Lower Decks came back. So, yeah, it's really fun. The first 3 episodes I've come out so far have been fun. Just 7 more to go, and then the show is done. I'm really sad now that we're closer to it being done, but I know that they're gonna end it well, however they end up doing it. Also saw the trailer for Star Wars Skeleton Crew, and I don't really watch trailers all that much anymore. Like, I don't seek them out, like, even when they drop. Like, I know there was, like, I think something Marvel related, like Wonder Man, Daredevil Born Again. Maybe they're part of a reel or something. Like, I don't know. Like, I didn't watch them because sometimes trailers just don't really excite me all that much. But because it's Star Wars, I went ahead and watched the Skeleton Crew trailer, and I was surprised by the song that was used. People saying like, "Oh, they did a needle drop in the trailer for a Star Wars show," and I think that's fine. Whether it happens within the show itself, and I don't mean like the end credits, but within the actual story, like if that ever happens, I don't know how I'll feel, but yeah. But the editing of the trailer doesn't really do much for me. I do like what it shows. I just don't like the way that it's edited, because maybe I just hate trailers now in general. I don't know. But yeah, I'm excited for that. I hope it's good. And I also hope that the dark side of fandom, it just like shuts up. But anyway, I guess that's it from me for now. Without further delay, have a good day.